Composing Gloves here with Amp Studio, and today we are going to be looking at how to build basic chord progressions quickly. So I'm assuming you're brand new to music, so what I want to start off with is an example. Let's start off with just me improvising a little bit, explaining all the thoughts that go on when you do something like this, and then we're going to work backwards so that when you see a principle, you understand why it's important. So our first starting point is we need to pick a scale. A scale is just a collection of notes. So I'm going to pick the C minor scale. It has these notes. There's actually a pattern with minor scales that we're going to sort of gloss over right now, but I'm going to pick that, and using only these notes, I'm going to make chords like this or that or this or that. You know, you can take the notes, put them together in interesting ways, and you get chords. Chords are just when you play multiple notes at a time. Typically, you're going to play 3 or more. There are special cases where there are only 2-note chords, but usually you're going to have 3 or more. So starting with that, let's go ahead and just improvise something. So with my scale selected, the notes I have picked, I will now improvise for you a thing. Let's start off on C minor. Let's go to F minor. That's in the scale. Let's go to E flat major. And then we'll go to G minor. And then, in fact, let's go to G major. And then we'll resolve to a C minor where we started. But I've played it as C minor a bit differently. Same notes, just different places. So before the notes were down here, now they're up here. So the basic way you build chords is out of intervals. So you start off on a note, like here's the note C. And then when you go to another note, you had to travel a distance. In this case, we went a distance of 1 note. So we call that distance a half step, and that is called an interval. Another interval would be, well, if we went to this note instead, to a D, I had to go 2 notes, and so we call that a whole step. If we go 3 half steps or 3 notes, so when I say a note, that's the same thing as a half step. So when I go 3 half steps, that is going to be the interval of a minor third. So keep that one in mind. Thirds are important for us. So 3 notes up, so from our starting note, is a minor third. So if I pick a different note like G, we go 3 notes up, 1, 2, 3, that's a minor third. Now if I were to do that again, but this time I go 4 notes up, 1, 2, 3, 4, that is a major third. And that holds for anything. You start on any old note. You can start on an A, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is a major third. If we go only 3, we get a minor third. So keep that in mind. And this is our first thing for building chords. When you want to build a minor chord or a major chord, your first interval should be a minor third or a major third. So if I want a minor chord, I'd pick A. And then from that note, I would go up 3 to get a minor third. 1, 2, 3. We have a minor third. If I wanted a major third, I'd go up 4. So from here, what we're going to do is let's keep going, but I'm going to skip to the 5th, the perfect 5th, because we're going to use thirds and fifths. So we understand major, minor thirds, and then the way you can top off your chord. Now there's a lot of different kinds, but we're just going to talk about these kind. The way you top it off is you add a 5th. So starting from our note, we go up a 5th. That's 7 notes away. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is called a perfect 5th. So if I pick a new note like E flat, for example, I go up 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there we go. We're on a perfect 5th. So if I want to build a minor chord, I would just put my starting note a minor third away from it, which would be 3 notes away. And then a 5th away, which is 7 notes from our starting point. So our starting point was C. So we would go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which would be a G. We get a minor chord. If we want to build a minor chord, let's say on a different note, like let's do it on F. We pick F, we go up 3 notes. That's a minor third. Then from F, we go up 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that is a perfect 5th. Now for 5ths, we're only going to work with perfect 5ths. There's augmented and diminished 5ths. Never ever say major or minor 5ths. Just don't do it. They don't exist. I know it's a little confusing, but you have major or minor thirds and perfect 5ths. Now that we know how to build minor chords, let's build a major chord. So if I start off on this E, a major chord requires a major third, so that's 4 notes away. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go up another, then we go up to 7 from the E. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have a E major chord. So now that we know this, we can begin to build out some more interesting chord progressions. So let's start off on C minor. So C minor has these notes. It has C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C. So this is why you want to get good at reading what's going on the piano roll. It's going to pay off big time. So these are the notes that we have that are valid notes for us to use right now. All other notes we're going to sort of just consider, not allowed. So if we have a note that doesn't quite fit into these notes, we're just going to sort of scoot it to fit. So when we play, for example, let's say that we start off on a 1 in the minor key. Notes that'll sound, chords when they go from one chord to another are going to sound good when they share a lot of notes. So for example, if I start off on the C, let's build the chord that would occur. So we have a C, and then we go up to a third, and the third that is here. So we go up 1, 2, 3. We see we get an E flat. It does not have the one above it, so we can't have a major chord. And then we go up to a fifth, which is G. And you'll notice that there's actually an outline on the background of this that highlights the keyboard. So you don't have to necessarily look at the keyboard to see it, but it does take some getting used to if you're not used to looking at writing music this way. So here we have a C minor chord. There we go. So next up, let's go ahead, and something that would sound good is something that shares a lot of notes. So maybe we'll pick our next chord starting from one of the notes in this chord. So let's go ahead, let's do our next chord. Let's do it using E flat. And so we're going to go ahead and put an E flat down. And then from here, we go up to a third. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. And it can use this note. So we're going to go ahead and use that one, which is a G. And then from here, we're going to go up to a fifth. So we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here we've got our chord that is built on E flat. So now, so this is pretty quick. So let's go ahead, let's slow it down. And let's go ahead, let's build out something. So I'm going to get rid of our helper here. You're going to want to get familiar with your scale. So hopefully you can see the merit of why you want to learn your scales now. Scales are an incredibly important tool. They're like the backbone for how you think about harmony. Okay, so we've picked our next chord. And now what we're going to do is we're going to pick another chord. So looking at this, we say, well, we've already used E flat. So let's use G now. So let's go ahead and just put down a G. And then I'm going to delete this and extend this out. So I'm going to put down a G. And let's zoom out a little bit more. And next up, we're going to put down a B flat because that's in the scale. You could have a scale out next to you like I had and move it around if you really need it. But again, I highly encourage you to just sort of memorize it and learn it on an instrument. That's going to help a lot. So if you have like a keyboard or something you can practice on, a flute, clarinet, something, it's a very good idea to learn your scales on instruments. It's just going to help it sink in when you're looking at the piano roll. So, okay, we've got that. And the next up is D, which I also know is a valid note. So we have got a C minor chord, an E flat major chord, and a G minor chord. And we can tell because of the first interval of each chord. And then here, this sounds pretty nice. And at this point, you've got a little bit of musical intuition going on. It sounds like, for me, I hear it coming down. It wants to come down. So I'm going to go down. The next note that's lower in the scale is F. So I'm going to put an F down. It's going to be F minor. So that's going to be F, and then a minor third is A flat, and a perfect fifth is C. It's going to want to come down like this, sort of. So that's one way you could come up with chords. You could just pick notes that or chords that share a lot of notes with the previous chord, and this is going to work out. But there's a lot of tricks to this, and there's actually a map. Once you get to know your scales well enough, maybe we'll do a separate video on scales and get into that. There's a map you can follow that will sort of highlight common chord progressions that are really common. Another way you could come up with chords, you could try just improvising them. You know, once you get familiar with it, you can just sort of let your musicality go. With a lot of people, that works. Another way is you could look up a tune you really like, see what chords they're using. At this point, you only know major minor chords. So you're going to see chords you don't necessarily recognize and know why they're there. But we could get into the different uses of chords and why they exist maybe in later videos.